very good morning. Students, you are requested to occupy the front seats. I repeat, you are requested to occupy the front seats.
The last two rows are requested to please come forward and occupy the vacant seats. Students sitting at the back, please occupy the front seats immediately. Please occupy the front seats. Students sitting in the last row, please come forward and occupy the vacant seats. Students, the speaker is about to arrive. Please maintain silence. So for lighting of the lamp, I'm only calling Umesh and Professor Padmanabhan.
So this is the order. I should repeat only Prabir, Umesh, Padmanabhan. Then after that, me.
Then I say we have.
I have ended.
You just order. We have to stand that side. Where's Ajay?
Students, the speaker is about to arrive in 2 minutes. Students, please maintain silence. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Prabir, President and Global Chief People Officer of Cipla, one of the largest Indian multinational pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. A very good morning to one and all present here. I, on behalf of Team Hriday, welcome you all to Gyanodaya, the opening ceremony of Anveshan 2019, Fostering Insights, sponsored by Deccan Fine Chemicals Private Limited. Anveshan is one of the largest national HR business symposiums conducted by any B school in the country. It is the flagship event of Hriday, the HR club of Goa Institute of Management. Hriday offers a plethora of events under the banner of Anveshan, starting with Gyanodaya, the keynote address by the speaker, Samiksha, the National Live HR Case Study Competition, Margdarshan, the Industry Mentorship Simulation Program, Inquisitive, the National Level HR Quiz Competition, and Yukti, a certified workshop. All of these events have been designed in such a way that it has a flavor of the theme. This year, being the 25th year of GIM and the 7th iteration of Anveshan, we have associated with big names in the industry. We have Deccan Fine Chemicals as our title sponsor, Top Sim as our simulation partner, HDFC Bank as the associate sponsor, Safe Express as the official supply chain partner, People Matters as the talent media partner, The Sold Store as the official gifting partner, Las Vegas Comedy Club as the entertainment partner, and Big FM as our radio partner. Let us now begin the event. With the customary lighting of the lamp ceremony, I request our speaker, Mr. Prabir, to kindly come up on stage. I also request Professor Padmanabhan to join him for lighting the lamp. I also request Professor Venkatesh Naga to please come on stage and join them. Representing the students, we have Manju Bharti, Senior Core Committee Member, and Sajay Warrior, Junior Core Committee Member of Hriday, to light the lamp along with them. I now invite Professor Venkatesh Naga to please come on stage to share a few insights and set the tone for Anveshan 2019.
Good morning, Prabir, once again. Morning, Paddy. Good morning to all of you. Right? It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this event. In fact, the speciality of Anveshan and Hriday, I would say, this is a format in which the juniors get baptized to the rigor of being a senior, right, and then carry on the torch for HRs. Prabir, to give you a flavor about Hriday, this is started in the year 2000 by Miss Cecilia, right, and now she's currently the head of HR with Johnson & Johnson. And as I was also talking about, one of the key things about GYM is in terms of the representation of the various functions, be it the marketing or finance or HR or the rest of the area, supply chain management. So you actually see the battlefield of corporate being replaced in the campus, where each of the groups, they tend to vie with each other, try to make a bigger event. And this being the 7th edition, the current set of students have made it a point to make it bigger. And the very fact that you are here, they've actually got it done. Yeah? So I request you to kindly come over and then share your thoughts. Yeah. Thanks.
We are privileged to have with us today Mr. Prabir Jha, President and Global Chief People Officer of Cipla, as our keynote speaker for Gyanodaya 2019. Mr. Jha completed his bachelor's and master's in history from St. Stephen's College and went ahead to do an MBA in personal management and industrial relations from XLRI Jamshedpur. He has a rich and diverse industry experience in varied fields like civil service, engineering, information technology, and pharmaceuticals. He was also the CHRO of 2 New York Stock Exchange listed companies and the CHRO of 2 Fortune 500 companies. Mr. Prabir Jha has been honored with various titles and awards, including LinkedIn Power Profile 2018, SAP Mint Digitalist Award 2018, YP Singhania HR Excellence CHRO of the Year 2016, the Asia HRD Award 2012 for outstanding contribution to HR community. So we are sure this is going to be an engaging and insightful session. We've been waiting for this session and would love to listen to your experiences. I request you to please come on stage to deliver your keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Prabir Jha.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. My favorites are always the backbenchers. Can you hear me? Is the voice carrying? You are the second last row, not the last row. The last row also says you can hear me. Good morning. First, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's an honor. I know I've been difficult to get, so my apologies. I was told the team has been trying to reach me for the last 2 years. So first, my compliments that resilience always pays, right? So don't give up hope. And I must first thank the Goa Institute of Management and all the students who are involved with putting Anveshan together. You know, just the fact that you have an opportunity of putting an event like this together is the start of a very, very important experience. And in the time that I have been asked to speak to you guys, I'm going to be a little free-flowing, if I have your permission. I'll share some of my own experiences, pepper it with some moments of reflection, and possibly some provocations. I also don't necessarily want, while I will give you an HR nuanced perspective, I believe that it's important. How many of you are not from HR here? Wonderful. This is the most sensible thing you've ever done in your life. Right? That you are here because, now let me start with that. I'm going to be watching that clock. So tell me when my time is up, right? I've got a sense. See, you guys are going to be beginning your careers in possibly the most exciting, but also the most turbulent time. And for those of you who thought it will be a walk in the garden, there is no garden anymore. The fact that you'll be MBAs, the fact that you'll be alum of this institute, these are all great start points, but they don't guarantee you the next 30 years. And for that matter, nor should you be a prisoner of what you would have studied in these 2 years for the life that is going to be ahead of you. I believe most of you will go through 3 or 4, maybe more, moments of career reinvention. And that is why today, and as you start your work life, you must start looking at HR a little differently. Many a time when we talk about HR, we talk about HR the function. Now some of you are specializing in HR and possibly would spend more time in that function than in others. Many of you who are not specializing in HR may spend more time in some other function, but what you will do, and in quick time, will be a lot more of HR than you had ever imagined. And to therefore understand the difference between HR, the function, and HR, the agenda, is very important for young leaders in the making like you. If you do not understand and appreciate HR, your careers are at risk. Because the minute you become responsible for even one more person beyond yourself, in other words, when you've moved from being an individual contributor to a first-time manager, that's when reality bites. Many of us, because of the skills that we will possess, of what we will start doing in our early years, we will be very good. Let me assure you. You'll be very good at what you do. I just went around the campus, was trying to look at some of your labs, the kind of inputs you get. They will equip you to get started right. But do these necessarily equip you to sustain yourself over time? I don't know. And please remember that the wiser ones start building themselves, preparing themselves for the future today. The not so wise start suffering when reality bites. And therefore HR becomes a big issue, because even the perception of what HR is will change as you build your career. HR, the function, is today also in many firms, and increasingly so, less about payroll, less about some policy, less about the transaction. That's not what HR is, at least. And I've been very fortunate. I must also compliment the institute, and I was sharing with some of your faculty early in the morning. If I had to pick my playing 11, and God has been kind, I've had a dream corporate run. If I have to pick my top 11, I think there will be at least 2 alum of this institute which will make it to my list, which is fantastic, right? Because at the end of the day, one is a 2001 batch pass out, one I think is a 2011-12 pass out. 2 most exceptional minds. And what I see in them was the ability to think beyond the obvious. And that is what each one of you will need to understand, whether you are in HR or you are actually the face of HR as a people manager. And as you become a senior leader and a still more senior leader, as you become a CXO, you will realize that the most difficult parts of your career will be to do with people. And what is soft is actually very hard. And the ability or the inability to manage the softer dimensions of that job is what will make the difference between a great leader and a career guy who will start spluttering at some point in time. So expertise will take you to a point, but beyond that, you are accountable for what you will get people around you to do and deliver. And that's a big change. So my first request and my first suggestion to you is, as you think of shaping your career, start today and start understanding HR, the agenda, because that is your agenda. It's about you, it's about your people, it's about your stakeholders. How do you influence? It's not about, I thought I was right. It doesn't matter. If your stakeholders don't think you were right, you are not right. That's how the world is. So the game of leadership is therefore a game of influence. And let Anveshan really help you with the insights of leadership. All of you will be getting your A pluses and B pluses and whatever in your curriculum. Now, it's very nice to get some medals, to get your degrees at the end of the year. But degrees don't help you succeed in careers. They just give you the basic scaffolding. Let me give you an example of why some things are very intuitive and yet we don't understand. Almost 3 decades back, I was at the academy. I was a young civil service probationer. And the story goes like this. There's a faculty of law at the academy. Now, he's taught us all the different nuances of law, and we are together. And then he says, imagine that you were unarmed and you were in front of a mob of 5,000 people, violent, angry, and carrying lethal weapons. What would you do? Now, this was asked by a professor of law. You see how conditioning happens. We started saying, okay, I'll impose section 144, I'll prosecute under CRPC section such and such, I'll do this, and all of this was going on. And like many of you sitting in the audience, we were like that, bright young officers of the government. And this professor, a very seasoned person, starts smiling. What else? Then you're saying, oh, maybe I'm getting the section wrong. Maybe there's another provision. And we kept playing that. And finally he said, ladies and gentlemen, when you are in front of an armed, violent mob and you are unarmed and alone, it is neither the presence of mind, it is neither the legal provision that works, it is finally the absence of body that matters. It is so commonsensical because at that point in time it doesn't serve any purpose. So as you build your careers, a lot of the theory that you would have been taught, finally you will have to apply common sense and mold it to something which makes a difference. Don't stay textbookish. Draw your own inferences, draw your own insights. And that is why I again bring back the agenda, that HR, the function, and HR, the agenda, are two different issues. And remember, HR, the agenda, it's about your learnability, your ability to scale up, your ability to influence and inspire, your ability to see and reconnect the dots. How many of you read newspapers every day, online or in? So this is one challenge I find. Not everyone does that. Why not? Are you able to see the interconnects? Don't look at HR, the agenda, only in the context of that organization. What is happening, let us say, with Trump's issue of the Mexican wall? Could it have an implication to your business in India? If there's a meltdown in Greece, could it impact something that you do here? The world is interconnected. Similarly, interdisciplinary. You're in marketing, you don't understand the people side. You're in the HR function, you don't understand the finance side. It doesn't work. The world has become interdisciplinary, inter-industry, and inter-nation. And one of the big things and the one big insight that I have is people who are able to understand the entire interconnectedness are the people who are best equipped for their future. If you're just understanding your domain, unless you choose to be that left heart surgeon who will only operate the left heart ventricle, not the right heart ventricle, unless you are in that super specialization mode, as general managers, doesn't matter what is your bias towards a function or a discipline, you have to understand and appreciate that business. And business is simple in any context. Where do you create value? Where do you leech value? You must understand your business clearly. Even if you're running this institute, you should know, where do I create value in the institute? Where does the institute possibly leech value? And your job, irrespective of what hat you wear, finance, HR, supply chain, operations, IT, marketing, sales, whatever else that you do, you should be able to either elevate and amplify the areas which enhance value and minimize where you leech value. That is really business. There's nothing more complex about it. But this, if you don't get, you are likely to be missing the wood for the trees. So that's the second insight that I want to leave you with. The third thing that I want to talk about is, in the world that I see tomorrow, one of the biggest crises that the world is facing is leadership. We have enough people who are domain experts, enough in every area. And yet the biggest problem is it's not adding up. And when I look around, whether you're looking for a great CEO or you're looking for a great CXO, you're looking for a good middle-level manager, or you're looking even for fresh talent, the biggest challenge that one sees is, where is leadership? In some ways, we are looking for people who are different. And the question to ask, I write and tweet and blog a lot on areas around this because I fundamentally believe that people do not spend time becoming aware of themselves. And one of the big jobs of HR is to enable that. One of the big jobs as a leader in the making is to become more self-aware. Who are you? Even if I were to look at the campus and ask you a question, if you were a brand of soap, what brand of soap do you think you would be? Would you be a Dove or a Synthol or a Liril or a Lifebuoy Lal Sabun? What soap would you be? And would that be the recall that people would have of you? We live in a world of perception. What is your perception of yourself, and what is the perception of the world about you? This sounds very soft, but this is the value that you will command. It doesn't matter what you think of yourself. What matters is, what does the world think of you? And therefore, as you start building your careers, one of the big issues is, how well equipped are you to become a leader? And leadership is scarce. The world needs more leaders. So if you ask me, what's the nature of my business is really about identifying, developing, cubating leadership. If you have the right leaders, they will do the right things. You can design the best of process, system and technology, but you don't have the right leaders, it will not add up. And as you guys sit here, this is going to be my one appeal to all of you. Get serious about building yourselves as leaders from today. And what does it take to be a great leader? You don't have to be a Shah Rukh Khan or an Aishwarya Rai. You don't have to be. First, are you authentic? If you are not authentic with yourself, authentic with people around you, you are not likely to sustain yourself as a leader. And authenticity needs immense vulnerability. Whether it's campus or even as you grow your careers, the big issue that I find with many people, and that's why many careers derail, is they are not willing to be vulnerable. Everyone loves to wear a mask. So my provocation to you is, what masks are you wearing today on campus? What masks are you willing to throw away? Because at the end of the day, you can wear a mask to a point, but you cannot wear a mask all your life. And it is better to be more authentic, more vulnerable, than to be appearing to be someone that you are not. First point. Second is, what is your passion? No person builds a career for oneself, builds a reputation for oneself, builds a leadership for people around if you do not have passion. What is your passion? It doesn't matter what degree you have had earlier, what degree you're picking up here, and what you will do tomorrow. Be very proud of your past, but don't become a prisoner of your legacy, of your education, of your past experience. You have to ask yourself, what is my true north? Why am I here? Where do I want to go? I was told by the profs as I was moving around, some of you on the band here actually have invitations from Bollywood. I don't want to disregard the campus and the norms, but maybe that is where the calling is. You may have an MBA degree, but it does not mean you have to do formal, conventional corporate management work all your life. It doesn't have to be. But do you follow your passion? Do you follow your larger purpose? What tickles you? And what tickles you does not have to be something that tickles everyone else. Just because a company pays $1 lakh more to someone else does not mean the guy is any smarter or brighter, the company is better or worse. I did not know this, but I was made aware yesterday there are different disciplines of 2-year programs that you run. So exciting. The question is, if that tickles you, that's the place to be in. If it doesn't tickle you, it doesn't matter. I've had people who have been in marketing and came to HR on a rotation and literally stayed on, and they become HR leaders. I've had people who were doctors who have brought into HR. I've had people who were R&D scientists have brought into HR, and they built careers in HR. Similarly, I know people who were HR people when they passed out, they were working in HR, and one of them is now the CEO of a small startup. He worked in my team of a small business. The other one is a person who became a great marketeer in the passenger car business. So the point I'm making is discover your passion. Don't be a victim of what you've studied. It doesn't matter whether you did 2 electives more of this or 2 electives more of that. None of this finally matters. But follow your passion, follow your true north. But the issue is, do you know what your true north is? How do you uncover that? Who helps you uncover that? Right? What is your psychographic makeup? Why did you do an MBA? Because maybe the neighbor was doing the MBA, or Sharmaji's son was doing MBA. In India, a lot of that is societal conditioning. You guys are going to be leaders and working in times of great opportunity. But are you willing to first be clear about your true north? The third thing that I would advise very strongly that you should think about is, what is your sense of curiosity? And that's why I asked, how many of you read the papers every day? I don't have time. You'll never have time. But if I can read, even today, before I sleep, 5 pages of a book every day, apart from reading a range of newspapers, I don't think anyone is more busy than I am. You must develop a sense of curiosity. What are you curious about? What else do you read? So in organizations, when I ask this question, people say, sir, I follow Prabir Insights. Now that's good, but not good enough. It's not good enough. What do you read which tickles you to think? Do you read about macroeconomic trends? The RBI has reduced rates yesterday. What implications does it have? What does it mean? What does the repo rate mean? It doesn't matter. It's not just for the finance guy. Do you understand implications? Even if you're in HR, do you understand implications? If suppose the lending gets better, what happens? Then what happens to business? Therefore, what happens to talent? Therefore, what happens to possibilities? So please ensure that from now on, it's not about cramming 2 days before the exam and getting through. All of you will clear that. But if you want to be leaders and you want to be great careerists, successful names, successful brands of soap, soap is within quotes, be passionately curious. Your learning agility in many ways will define whether you will survive your 30 years or you will not. And I can bet my job and my reputation, some of you will get to opportunities and situations far quicker than what you're conventionally thinking today. And some of you are going to derail much earlier than when you had wanted. And many of you will not do things that you will be doing when you pass out from the institute. You'll do something very different 5 years, 10 years from now. But this is something I do want to show the mirror to, because I find many, many youngsters, and I interview people all the time, that's part of my job. Many of them have not even read a book after they left campus. Now, why I understand that there's a lot more of video content available, the modes of learning has changed, and there are bite-sized inputs, but the fact is people just are not aware enough. So that's the other thing that I want us to imagine. And the last thing that I want to talk about from a leadership and a career perspective is, at the end of the day, it is only about impact creation. Each time and every time, deliver what you have promised. This is the only thing which will sustain your reputation. Today, your reputation will precede your resume. Today, you have the option. If suppose you have a conversation opportunity with me, you would have researched me. And more than your resume, I would have known about you. The resume will look very good, but I would have heard about you, that the guy is not a collaborative guy, or the guy is all about I, me, myself, and blah, blah, blah. What do you think happens in the conversation? So, what you impact and how you impact are both central to what you will become. And absolutely be sure about it. You will be known even before you go through any selection process. Many a time, and I'm letting out a secret, I would even ask the senior batch, no, this CV looks good. Did you know her on campus? She was 1 year junior. The resume looks good. How was she? Now, many a time, they are very loyal to the next batch. No, how can I say? No, what can I say? The minute you say, how can I say, what can I say? I know there's a red flag. Otherwise, the easier answer is to say, oh, she was brilliant, she was very good, she was great to work with. So even what you start doing on campus gets to become an input for tomorrow. And that's a very important insight you should remember. As you build your innings, as you grow in your careers and your lives, keep widening your network. The world of tomorrow is going to be a world of networks. How many of you are not on LinkedIn? I'm not getting money from LinkedIn in any case. So, anyone who's not on LinkedIn? Very good. How many of you are not on Twitter? Okay, still quite a few. How many of you are on Instagram? Only so many? I thought the whole, okay. But whichever way it is, the world is one of networks. Please make sure you are a master of networks. When you meet someone, what impression do you leave on that person? 2 minutes, do you leave a positive impression? End of the session, all of you will appraise me. Said things which made sense, said things which didn't make sense. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, impressions count, networks count. So please realize that we are here in this world where we will make an impact not because we were Einstein or Bernard Shaw. We will make a difference because we actually influence many more people to start helping us deliver the cause for which we are standing. So these are 4 or 5 things I would very honestly urge that all of you should remember and consciously practice from right now. So that's one that I wanted to talk about, careers, leadership. Let me talk a little, since Anveshan is an HR event, a little about how the world of HR is changing. See, there was a time many years back when we started, and I must admit, I started off as a civil servant, so I never was an individual contributor in my life, so I don't know whether I would even have been a good one, right? Because at the age of 22, 23, I started off as a leader and there were big decisions to be made and the files would work in the government. But it was not very different in the corporate world also. The corporate world also had files. There was someone who was maintaining things. It was a lot about payroll processing, transactions, making sure the canteens delivered food in time and so on and so forth. The world of classical personal administration. Cut to where the world is today. I would not expect many of you to actually spend your time in understanding payroll management. because that job in most companies is now outsourced to people who know that better than us. You don't do a lot of transactions because a lot of it has moved to self-service. HR's job is not about running transactions. It is either with the individual employee or it is with their manager. Your job is to get larger things done. And it is very difficult because even as a young entrant, you will be having as your stakeholders people who are much more senior to you and older to you. That's the perk. How many of you are in HR? Raise your hand so at least I know where to look. This side. Okay. All right. So you will have a lot more of influencing to do. As HR, you have the most difficult job in any corporation. This is the only function where you are responsible for every sneeze in the company, but no one reports to you. You are needing to be a better marketeer than the best marketeer. If the guy is selling a product, you're selling a dream to a potential candidate. You're selling careers, which is a little flaky. It's not a product or a service. So if you are in HR, the first thing is you must be a damn good marketeer. Second, you must be a strong digitalist. Do you understand the power of digital? You don't have to be a technical engineer, but do you understand the power of brand? Do you understand the power of technology? Do you understand the power of digital communication? If you don't understand that, I don't think you're preparing yourself to be relevant in the new world of HR. Be a master of communication. Be a master of the brand. Third, while there is a lot of stuff coming in from technology, whether it is AI or machine learning, a lot of algorithm-based data crunching, big data analytics, a lot of that is there. Training is getting to be more VR-led now than otherwise. Classroom trainings are going to go, in fact, I would feel even the teaching in classrooms would get disrupted in some time, right? So I think a lot of things are changing. Will you be receiving that or will you be driving it? HR will have to drive this transformation still further. So if you are building a career in HR, I don't think you'll be a recipient of technology changes. You will have to be the exploiter of technology. You don't work for technology, technology works for you. So how are you able to visualize? How are you therefore able to get a lot of this chatbot support to work for you? And therefore HR will become a far more strategic function than a transactional function. We've already moved that way. As Ramcharan and Dominic, with whom I had Dominic Barton is McKinsey's global head, I had the opportunity of sharing stage with him in Singapore some months back, and they wrote a book, Ramcharan and Dominic Barton, and they say three roles will become the most strategic tripod in an organization for the organization of tomorrow to succeed. The CEO, the CFO or the strategy head, and the CHRO. These are three roles that will become center stage. The invitation to each one of you in the room is, how well will you prepare yourself and how soon can you get to that role? The world expects you to be a driver of change. Are you preparing yourself to be the leader of that change? You're not going to be expected to just do transactions. And yet, and this now I'm making a little beyond HR, all of us, wherever we start, we will have some things to do which are in the trenches. The challenge of an MBA degree is this. Everyone wants to do strategic work. But unless you understand where the rubber hits the road, you will never be in a position to actually get into strategic thinking. You've got to understand that. So what's the point? The point is, think big, but keep yourself very deeply and surely rooted in the reality of your times. Because that is where you've got to create magic. And this is where we struggle sometimes. So even in the world of HR, that's the new world. You've got to be there, but you've got to make sure that the connect is in place. A lot of HR today is really around the word called talent. Talent, I believe, is a moving definition. And that is why I said that many of you are going to get to points far ahead of time, When I had left the government and joined the private sector, I thought by the age of 40, I would have done well if I was a general manager. At the age of 36, 37, I was the CHR of a NYSE listed global firm. And when you start counting the number of years and exclude 2 years of Acceleri and this government training, I had only 11 years of experience, and I was running an NYSE listed firm. Now, do you go and say, sir, I have only 11 years of experience? You don't. So you will realize that you are expected to be absolutely current with talent thinking. What was talent in 2018-19 will not be talent in 2025, is for sure. The question is, do you understand what the talent of 2025 will be? How many times will you be able to disrupt yourself? And as HR, your job is to spot, move, deploy, rotate people beyond their comfort zones. You've got to understand psychometrics far better than anyone else. It doesn't matter how many years of a certain skill experience the guy has, maybe the skill is going to be irrelevant tomorrow. So how do you understand the behavioral disposition? How do you hone? How do you coach? Many of you in HR must formally get to be coaches and then help more line managers acquire the skill of coaching. How do you as HR look beyond the conventional remit of saying that employees is my remit? I don't think that's going to be the world. And I'll give you a small example in my own experience. I was a CHR of Tata Motors. All of us have driven cars. Has anyone bought a car? Either with parents, with brothers, sisters, anyone who's bought a car? Raise your hands. Where did you go to buy the car? Did you come to the factory? Showroom. Who runs the showroom? Dealers, right? They are not employees. Who are the people who are in the dealership? Employees of the dealers, not of the company. Where does the point of experience get created? In the showrooms with the employees of dealerships. If that is not well thought through and crafted, it doesn't matter how well you do internally, it creates no value for the company. Make sense? Now suppose you're the HR guy in a company and you define yourself that my responsibility is to work with employees. What will happen? You will do as well as you will, but you're not going to make a difference, any strategic impact on the company. So what did we do? We actually created a team of HR guys and we said, your job is to coach, handhold and get the dealership HR practices to an acceptable level so that their retention improves, their morale improves, their incentive systems get better, and therefore they are motivated to sell more cars. The point I'm making is, in the gig economy of tomorrow, you will not be expected to only think employees, you will have to think talent. The paranoia has to be about talent, newer catchments of talent. The big challenge that I have seen in my career is many people, many line leaders, they only want a plug and play guy. Okay, he's done finance from Goa Institute of Management, he's got 5 years experience in this, relevant to the job I'm wanting, hire the guy. You will make a conventional mistake, you will also do exactly that, because you'll get 20% hike and you will go and do the same job which you were doing for the last 5 years for another 3 years. But you would not have learnt anything new, nothing new. If you are in HR, you will not be able to push back and say, why don't you look at a guy who has not done this but can do this job? And I think that's the opportunity gap. So it again is about interconnecting the dots differently. It's about revisualizing, reimagining. And you guys will have to, in the generation that you will build your careers, you will have no option but to reimagine. And the guys who are able to therefore break away from conventional instructional paradigm that you will inherit to a world of a constructive co-creation of a new reality, that is the expertise and that is the opportunity that we would expect from management graduates like you. And that is when you talk about Anveshan, this is about exploding a lot of the historical myths with which you grow. And welcome to the brave new world, which will run in a very, very different way. And I believe that more than worry, it is a time of exhilaration, because a lot of what will happen, I don't know how many of you would possibly become entrepreneurs, would run your own startups. You will not be wanting employment. You will not be necessarily saying, oh, this company did not shortlist me, and tears start rolling down. At least it used to roll down. I don't know whether it rolls down now. So and so company did not shortlist. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Right? So I think it's very important to remember that a lot of what the new world will be will depend on what you will make of the opportunity. So when I was in college, our principal was a professor of history, and he said 1857 was a turning point in the history of India, but India refused to turn. You guys are at a similar crossroad. Which way will you turn? This is what you have to explore as you go through events like these, Anveshans. You get provocations, you get possibilities. You've got to ask yourself from within, is this me? Is this really what I want to do? Or it's just that this was a course I got, or this is what the neighbors told my parents, and therefore I did this. There are no holy cows anymore. None. Disrupt, challenge, and yet at the same time be collaborative, collegial, and amiable. Managing the paradoxes is really the art of management of tomorrow. It is on the one hand and on the other hand. You've got to balance both. And management students like you who are able to comprehend and balance this, I think they are going to be in the best position of being ready for bigger managerial jobs tomorrow. But if you get stuck with this and not able to comprehend or go around this, times are tough. I also want to talk a little about a trend that bothers me about the younger generation. There's a lot which exhilarates me. I see my daughter, she's a corporate lawyer, and the hours she works, the commitment, the way she, I think it's fascinating. But at the same time, I see a lot of comments on social media which bothers me. And most of them, I suspect, are written by people who are about 25 to 35, in that age bracket, given whatever their profiles seem to suggest. And what concerns me and bothers me is the high sense of cynicism. Please remember, the world will not always play out the way you wanted it. The world is implicitly unfair. But then who are we to judge fairness or unfairness? We see it from our point of view. And maybe we are right, maybe we are not right. But I think it is very disappointing if you convert that disappointment to cynicism. Everyone around me is bad, my manager is bad, my organization is bad, HR is bad, this is bad, that is bad. The only one who's good is me. My honest advice to many of you in the room would be, even if you feel low, you feel upset, either have the guts to walk out and follow your dreams, or have the sense and resilience to overcome some of these disappointments. There is no perfect job, there is no perfect career, there is no perfect moment. But one of the things that I worry is the resilience level seems to be coming down. You have to lose a few skirmishes if you want to win your war. You can't win every skirmish. No war has been fought without any collateral damage. Strengthen yourselves from within. Because I honestly feel concerned. If you are not resilient, some of you will be in marketing, sales, you're not going to win every deal. Learn from that experience. Convert failures into learning moments. Even if someone is unfair, learn from that experience. If you think you can't take it anymore, of course, take a call, no problem. But never get trapped into this issue about cynicism. Skepticism, cribbing, these are sure career derailers. I remember firing a colleague of mine many years back. He was from Ahmedabad, very bright guy, was a fast tracker, was doing well. But suddenly the entire reputation, anyone who he would meet in the corridors, the only thing he would do was crib, crib and crib. Either get out, change the world, otherwise shape, influence. Cribbing means that you are not able to influence the system. Why not? That also is a reflection on you. Be a master influencer. But you cannot keep cribbing. And finally we had to let the guy go because it was getting toxic. So the point I'm making is, some of us by temperament are more cynical. Some of us by temperament are more sunny. So to all my friends who are more cynical, work on it from now. Don't expect, there are no honeymoon careers. There are none. All of us will go through our highs and lows. There will be tough moments. Life will not always be fair. Sometimes we will logically and rightly screw up. It's okay. We all have made our share of mistakes. I'll give you a small instance so that it doesn't appear preachy. I was a young officer on my first posting after my academy training, and I was called by my skip level boss, which in the government means a big deal. And I went to him and he said, Prabir, you've sent on this note to me. Is it okay? And he gave it to me, and like a good 24-year-old brat, I looked at it and I said, yes, sir. I did not even look at it for more than 5 seconds. Yes, sir. He said, no, look again, look carefully. 10 seconds. Yes, sir. Finally, he showed me that, on that note, there was something which was written in words and something which was written in numbers. They were not in sync. Now, in the government, I don't create the document. It comes from the clerk all the way up to me, and then I send it to my bosses. So I would have also just put my little initial somewhere or done whatever. And he said, the amount is not significant, but why I called you is, this was my first posting, maybe 3 months old in the posting. He says, in your life and in your career, you will be making decisions which are going to be very, very momentous. Learn the ability to have a fine eye. Now, I could have got very sensitive and said, big deal, why is it telling me, it's okay. But I thought that was a great coaching moment. And therefore, when you read a lot more papers, lot more emails, you have mastered the art to read almost diagonally today. You know exactly where to look because you can't read every word, every line, you can't. Now, all of us will go through these moments. Some of us will have a boss who will coach us even if it hurts us at that time. Some of us will not. But the point I'm leaving you with is, who is the CEO of your career? It is you. You cannot abdicate this responsibility to anyone. Everyone can work for you to help you succeed, but no one is obliged to build your career. No one is obliged to say, here you come in and this is where you will get to. There are no guarantees in life. How are you going to actually seek feedback? To ask for feedback, absorb feedback which is not so pleasant, not kill the messenger who gives you the message, but work on it. This is how you will become a leader of substance. And my prayer for all of you would be, shape yourself from today. Recognize the way the world is changing. Recognize the challenges and the opportunities. The next wave of careers are not going to be at the end of the tunnel. They are going to be at the fringes. Develop a wide-angled lens. Look asymmetrical. And if you are able to do that, the concept of Anveshan would actually be best served. But if you are only going to look like this, my suspicion is we might possibly be losing out on a lot of risks and a lot of opportunities that exist both for our companies, our industries, and definitely for ourselves. So I'm going to kind of stop here with all my good wishes, because at the end of it all, you will make India Inc., World Inc. Very different than what it has been so far. And I hope that in this room, there are many more challengers than followers. So challenge, push, change the world. because that is what I think this institute is preparing you for. And don't just be a routine follower and slave, because we have enough of them already in the system. So thank you very much. God bless you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
The floor is now open to questions.
Any questions? Rotten eggs, tomatoes, let me know.
Hello, sir. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, sir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Okay. So I had a question about organizations like Zappos and Southwest Airlines who prefer their employees to excel at their work. And there are Indian organizations who only want team structures and pencil pushers. They would be very happy with employees who like people who respect hierarchy much and not excelling at their work. So is there any blockage between international mindset and Indian mindset why they are not hiring employees who are excellent?
Okay. So I had the opportunity of spending a day with Zappos some years back, all right, and the entire concept of holacracy and all that I saw. So a lot of that made sense. But my first caution is don't stereotype. Don't stereotype. There is nothing like international companies. There is nothing like Indian companies. You have great exceptions of Indian companies. You have great exceptions of international companies which are as bureaucratic. I think first is ask yourself what's the environment in which you will be happier. It is almost like saying all millennials want free space. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. Even among millennials, there are many people who'd like a very structured, regulated, tell me what you need, 9 to 5 reality. It is true. So I would always fight shy of stereotyping. Okay? But first ask yourself, which way are you made? If you are a guy who wants to think differently, who doesn't bother about this, who doesn't care about it, and you're honest about it, look for an organization that comes closest to giving you an environment that is like you. If you are not like that, it's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you might as well join the government of India or join the army or do whatever, or maybe join the so-called Indian company, right? So there's no right or wrong. It is very clearly about how are you made, what gives you the mojo, what are your triggers, and look for a culture that gives you that. Then don't go about, oh, this salary was lower, or these companies are known right now, I would rather go for a known company. So this is the trap in which youngsters get to. You can't have it all. Have the confidence to make a pick carefully, and don't be worried about what your roommate or your neighbor who had less of a CGPA or CQPI, and if he got into some, follow your heart. Let me give you a small example. Sit down. I'll give a small example of someone who met me the other day. He's from Tata Institute. He's an IT engineer who went to Tata Institute, did his MBA in HR. And for the last 3 years, he has been working on developing a certain platform. I won't get into details of the area of specifics, and he wanted to just show me and get some validation. Does this make sense? Now he, I'm sure, could have joined. An IIT engineer and a TIS MBA degree, I think, is almost blue chip in an HR line, right? He could have joined any company that he wanted. But here is a guy who never took a campus job, and the last couple of years he's only been working to create this kind of a platform. Now, young boy, now tomorrow if he becomes a CEO and we all start buying his product, or he's bought over by some big technology company and he becomes a billionaire, we'll suddenly know of him. He followed his heart. Or if he had not created his own company, he should have worked in an environment which is him and not be bothered about what his other batchmates are getting paid. I don't think he's getting paid anything. So it's a lot about the choice that you will make. You have enough choices of both kinds in both environments, in India and overseas. But that's really how I would answer this question. Does this help you? Thank you. Okay, anyone else who has a comment, question? Yes, please. And while the mic is coming, let me also make one more suggestion. I do write and speak a lot on personal branding. Today I have not spoken about that. But occasions like these are very important, and please mention your names, because when you are able to stand up and raise a question in front of 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people, it gives you tremendous confidence. You get noticed. And I'll make a confession. Even if I stand and make an answer, sometimes some questions are so deep that, we think about it, and I'll ask someone, I said, who was that guy? And if you're in a company, who was that guy? That was a very smart question. Can I have coffee with him sometime? Now suddenly see you've been spotted. Now, is this serendipity? Yes. But the fact is, everyone had the opportunity. Why did only 2 people raise their hands? Right? So thank you for asking the question, but may I know your name? Ekansh. Okay, and what are you wanting, which area are you in? Digital marketing. Wonderful, Ekansh. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Vyoma.
Vyoma.
And, sir, there are many organizations that list down their values, maybe in their mission or what they really aspire to inculcate. However, in the practical sense, how do these organizations really inculcate these values and build up a culture like this where everybody really matches and, they kind of have the same way of looking at things?
It's a very profound question. I wish I had a simple answer, but I'll give you an honest answer. There are many companies who write many things, they don't mean it. Many. There are many companies who write this and make an effort of getting there. There are very few companies which actually write it and 100% adhere to it. PR notwithstanding, right? So that's the honest answer. But if you ask me how you would do it, so let's say in my own company, which is an 84-year-old pharma leader, we've turned a lot of things on its head. And we've called it, and I wrote on my smartphone, which is lying there, what I call the one Cipla credo. And it spells out 5 things that we will stand for. And it's a big change because this is what we want. Some might have a reference to the past, but a lot of it is forward-looking. Apart from communicating, I can play the tabla. Communicate. A 30,000 feet view to someone who's a receptionist in Zanzibar. How does she understand this in a manner that she can comprehend? It's not about memorizing it, but you get a sense of it. So communication is the first big thing. Help people understand what it means. Use storytelling. I shared a few stories with you because you'll forget all the other stuff I said, but a couple of these stories will stay with you. Storytelling is a very important art, but it's all about communication. I do radio shows. Twice a month we do a one Cipla radio show so that people, it's through music, it's through whatever, but the messages keep getting reinforced. So that's about education and awareness. When you keep repeating messages, bit by bit, it starts sinking in. They start talking the talk at least. The other thing that I've always recommended as part of my transformation prescription and including in my current company is all your people's subsystems must get tweaked, iterated, thrown out or brought in to support the new vision that you have set for yourself. So let's say you want to be a meritocratic company, but you still go by seniority-based promotion historically. No one is going to believe what you say. So if you say merit, define what is merit. Your talent process completely changes. Your recognition systems change. Now you don't recognize people for tenure. You recognize people for impact, right? So whether it's your performance system, it is your reward system, it's your recognition system, it is your hiring practice. Who will you hire, right? That changes. Will you be aggressive? Will you be disruptive in your hiring? So your entire ecosystem needs to change to align to this. And that is where most companies fight shy, either because it is difficult, there are political turf issues which happen, right? But that's the only way to go. And it takes a couple of years, but if you're able to cross the hump bit by bit, the language changes and the action accordingly changes. So it's not only about writing or articulating, it's about making sure your entire organization gets rewired to the new world. That is how you start driving change. Does that help?
Morning, sir.
Okay,
Morning,
here and then I'll come to you, whichever way out. I saw him first, front row. I'll come to you, I'll take the questions. I'm in Parliament, I'll take all questions. It's 0 hour, so I'll take questions. But
good
first.
Morning, Mr. Jha. My name is Mustafa Ahmed and I am from People Matters team.
Oh, you're from People Masters.
Yeah.
Esther's man.
Yeah.
Convey my hi to her.
So my question is, how do you see the gap between what is being taught in educational
The
institutes?
mic is not working, so someone can just change the mic for him, please. I can listen to you because you can whisper to me, but I don't think anyone will hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so how do you see the gap between what is being taught in educational institutes versus the realities in workplace?
See, this is a favorite conversation we have with professors these days, right? And it's easy to be critical. So if you ask me as a practitioner, you'll say, institutes don't really teach what we want, right? Their curriculum is still dated, the world has moved, etc. So at one level, there is a gap. But the good news is I see there's a lot of interest from a lot of management schools of engaging now with the industry and wanting feedback, criticism, critique. Does this make sense? Does this add up? Is this what the new world is demanding? So there is still a gap, I'll be honest, there is still a gap, but I think it's getting bridged. But if you look at the entire ecosystem of the providers of talent, let us say whether they are engineering schools or technical schools or management schools, there is so much of variety in the standards. You don't have one homogeneous standard yet of the entry-level talent. So for organizations, a lot of work still goes about almost retraining the person when they come in. Ideally, it should shrink. So there is a gap, and I think the good news is that there's a lot more of conversation happening. And if you ask me honestly, there has to be a better alignment between three players: the government, the industry, and academia. I mean, government and their own AICTE, and I mean, first of all, they are living in a world which is dead. Absolutely, it's an outdated curriculum. It doesn't make sense. So if you are one of those affiliated and approved institutes, you have to conform to the old world. And they are living in an absolute dodo world, right? Then you have the private institutes which are a little more practical, pragmatic, they are engaging. But I'm not absolving industry also of their sins. We want everyone ready-made. But how much time do we spend with academics? How often do we invite them and come and spend 3 months in our company, go around, study practices, write cases? We also don't, because we are all running on our treadmills. So I think the gap is about understanding that we have a collective problem. It's a skill problem, right? And it's actually therefore a national problem. So I am a lot more sensitive to the gaps, but the silver lining is I see a lot more conversations happening. This morning also I was talking to professors here, and we were talking about possibilities. How do we help? How do we actually understand more real time? But we have to create time. They have to listen, and we have to fundamentally, partner institutes to get their students ready. Otherwise, for example, I'll be very honest. If you're in HR, I would like people to formally come to companies certified in certain instruments in psychometrics, because at least then you bring a certain expertise. But what is happening is they come in, they have no idea, then we are teaching, it takes that much more time. But at the same time, I also realize 2 years, what all can you be taught? As it is, they are working through the night. I presume so. What time do you guys sleep? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, right? How much more will you load them, right? How many more credits? So I don't think there is an easy panacea, but I think curriculum redesign is a must. There are many things which you don't have to teach today. I mean, as an example, beyond the point, I don't think we should waste too many classes teaching motivation theories. I mean, it just doesn't directly help. Give them a little understanding and appreciation. If in today's world someone hires on whether he remembered Herzberg's theory, then I think the hiring process is wrong, because it doesn't matter. Helps? Sorry, there was this side first. Let me swing to the right. These are the treasury benches. This is the opposition. So let me take the treasury bench first.
Sir, good morning. My name is hello. My name is Shobhashaji Chaudhuri, and I'm from the healthcare management background. So my question was, right now in this current scenario, many companies look for culture fit people. So if I suppose, if I want to work in a company which has been my dream company for quite a few years, and suddenly I get to know that they are looking for a culture fit person, and I get rejected because of no apparent fault of mine, how do I bridge that gap and know what I'm doing wrong?
Brilliant question. Thank you. First of all, I was speaking somewhere in Bombay yesterday at lunch, or over lunch, and I talked about this concept, that why is it stupid to now hire for culture fit? It is actually a very outdated view. My view is you should hire for culture plus, not culture fit. 2 points. First, is Kathak part of Indian culture? Yes? You heard of Kathak? Okay. If I'd asked this question in the 11th century, what would they have answered? No, Kathak did not exist. It came with series of invasions that happened and some art forms came. So first, my belief is culture is not static. These are biggest myths, and it's a tragedy that even today companies, many companies hire for culture fit. I don't think it holds true, and that is why most companies have the problem of having suckers in their system. Everyone thinks the same way. Now, in a Stalinist, status quoist reality, it worked. Predictable. So the same kind of guy, he comes in and he does that. It made sense. In today's VUCA world, if you are hiring for culture fit, the CEO and the CHRO should be sacked. They don't get it. They are not getting it. When you don't know what the world of tomorrow is going to be, please have enough divergence, or what I call plurality of thinking in your ecosystem. And therefore, if you are hiring for culture fit, you will get exactly what you've got. And by that logic, hiring people first from the same industry, from one company to the other, is bad practice. And I can tell you examples of how I have tried to disrupt in my own, and 99% of them have been successful. So that's my first conceptual answer. Now, if some company is hiring you for culture fit and you are not that culture, God bless you. At least you have avoided a blunder. You would have thought Aishwarya Rai is the most beautiful woman you are marrying, and you discovered, my God, she's everything I did not ever want to see in a woman. And so I tell my wife that Aishwarya Rai might be the most beautiful woman, but I'm happy with you, right? So the point is, many a time we make this mistake of joining companies because they call you by a certain title, give you a certain money or whatever else. We hardly understand culture. Join companies, which is back to your Zappos example, join companies where you culturally belong. If you were to work as part of me and you can't challenge me and push me back, you have a career derailment possibility, because I don't want someone to say, Prabir, you are right. Finally, I do have the right to veto you because I carry a higher pay grade. But I like people who can push me and say that, no, could we not think about it this way? I have an idea like this. But some cultures are just not it. You are an entrant, just do what we have told you to do. Bad place to be in. So your dream company could have been a nightmare. So thank God that you woke up from your dream before it became a nightmare. Clear? Wrong company to chase. Please honestly look at culture. This is the one reason why most people want to leave their jobs. It's not for money, it is not for this. Those are temporary, and there will always be someone who will pay $1 more. और कोई पैसा से फर्क नहीं होता है. I am earning at least 100 times, maybe even 500 times what I was earning in the government. I cannot necessarily say I am 500 times happier. So having lived the entire journey, I can tell you that it should not be the draw. But still a lot of youngsters say, oh, that company is offering me 18.5 and this company is offering me 17.5, so let's go for 18.5. So I understand at this age, you feel a lakh makes a lot of difference, but actually it makes no difference. No difference. This side, there were hands up there. Yeah, please.
Morning, sir. My name is Jishnu and I'm from the Big Data Analytics batch. So, sir, analytics is something that is used in all functions, HR, marketing, operations. And now, how has an HR role, what transformation has analytics been able to bring in the HR role? And how effective is it? Because HR involves a lot of emotions, sentiments, everything.
So it's a great question again. Very clearly, yes. It all starts from, so first of all, any analytics needs longitudinal data. You know it better than I do. The challenge in HR historically has been that you've not had too much of data because some part of the job has been classically more sensitive, emotional. It's not like sales. You don't have hardcore numbers, and therefore it becomes more difficult, right? So very clearly HR is at a stage where almost everyone is wanting to look at basic fundamental data linked around recruitment metrics, campus, trends, male, female, this, that, all combinations, and you can play out the algorithm the way you want. Around attrition, around performance evaluation, managerial capability, engagement. So where there is some mathematical data which is there. But so that is where most of the maturity is. But what is also heartening, and that's exactly what this example I was telling you about, that IIT TIS guy who's doing, he's working in an area which is apparently more flaky. But his entire algorithm is that actually you can crack it. And this is about sentiment. It's about emotion. It's about reading and tracking sentiment around whatever a guy says or does not say. So the simple thing is, the more you are going to make yourself able to lend capturing data, the processing of data becomes very easy. That is work in progress. But personally, I believe it's almost like in marketing. A lot of it which is about consumer preference, consumer bias is emotive, but you're capturing it somewhere. How many times did he raise his eyes when we talked about the, you're capturing it, right? And then you are analyzing. It's just going to be the same. So I believe that even if robotics are going to come into as HR surrogates, right? They are going to capture really some of this data. So hi, good morning, how are you? How many people actually looked up when you said good morning? And you'll start now processing and then validating, saying 50% of people who did not look up and say good morning when the robo walked around were disengaged. And therefore, when you have more robos walking around and the less people, more people will mean potential attrition is happening. So it will evolve and mature to a point. But the fact that is big data analytics here, by all means. I was in Reliance, I created a full people analytics group, right? And got in a guy who had no background of HR, but he understood analytics. He was from the Indian Statistical Institute. So a lot of functions are going to be supplementing the domain understanding and the domain challenge, but you're going to get a lot of people with hardcore modeling and statistical thinking to be playing around the numbers to churn what could be possible hypothesis. So very, very clearly, I think, and a lot of it is going to be predictive. So personally for me, I don't like to look at something when people come and say, boss, this year, this month attrition was 20%. It doesn't make sense to me. Is it good, bad? Should I be concerned, not concerned? How do you draw the inferences? So, but when you start showing me a longitudinal trend and you project it, I'm listening. So very clearly happening. There's a lot of work happening in this area. But again, see, we have so many kinds of companies and organizations. I can't say everywhere it's at the same level of maturity, but very clearly in HR, in the people practice, very, very high. I mean, we do word clouds. If you do a town hall and you're capturing it on tape, you can actually do a word cloud. What were most typical words that people said? And you can run the algorithm and say, most people ask questions around this. Now, that is where the concern is. So things like that happening.
Thank you.
Anyone this side? No, I know, I've seen a hand there, I know. Anyone this side? Right? Okay. Is there a mic there? I just want to balance the left and right, and then I'm going to come this way.
Hello sir, I am Arushi Singh, healthcare management student. Sir, you talked about discovering your true north. There's this book named Discovering Your True North as well, which talks about stories of people who have hopped into different segments before actually discovering their true north. So how do you as an HR see the CV of a person which reflects diversity and risk but does not show the specific experience into the job role you are looking for? That's my question.
If you guys have not read Bill's work, please read. I've had the opportunity of spending time with Bill George. It's a great book, an amazing book. It's very dear to my heart. So please read this book. You know, ultimately you have a lot of data. I do a lot of work which is around what I call career designing, because I personally believe career planning is dead, because it was again for a very status quoist world, career designing, and a lot of that is about discovering true north. So I'll just give you a little jhalak of this because we don't have the time. See, I believe a lot of it is through understanding life histories. So when I run a workshop, it's a fairly provocative workshop wherein I try to understand the entire life of a person from the time you remember as a child all the way to, let's say, till Goa Institute, if I was to do a workshop here. And it shows a very strong insights. Now, whether an algorithm will be written for this tomorrow and whether machine will do it, I don't know. But at the moment, I think some of us do this work. And it gives you a lot of insights and questions which may be counterintuitive to what the guy otherwise believes of oneself. First, you validate it with a lot of psychometrics. So when there are a series of life experiences, you know, they may be very, very small as examples, but it gives you a sense. For example, maybe a sense of adventure is true north. You can pick up that when I was in the 4th standard, this happened and I did this. When I was in the 10th, this happened. So the basic tenor you pick up is this guy is not the one who wants to just follow the beaten track. He wants to do something which is different, challenging, and blah, blah, whatever. So you validate that, then you look at, let us say, you use Edgar Schein's career anchors as an inventory model, right? And you say, here actually, challenge is actually coming out as a big thing, or entrepreneurial creativity is coming out as a big thing. So you start validating, and you start pushing the guy to start thinking that, where do you think you'd like to be, you know, suppose you're retiring or it's your last day, how would you like yourself to be remembered? And then people will say that, you know, I would like to be remembered, here is a guy who created. So the choice of words, what it will be will change over time. So where you start helping people get to is, this is possibly my calling. Now, if you know directionally as an adjective the my calling, then you say, if let's say caring is my calling. Now, whether it's caring for dogs or for people or for the destitute, whether in urban cities, whether in hospitals, whether in HR, whether, I mean, then you start provoking the next set of discussions. But you know that the guy's sense of fulfillment will come out when there is something that he's doing. He might be a professor because maybe sense of caring comes out in that. So you explode that sense, but the important thing is, what is it that gets his mojo? So this is how you progress the, does that give you a sense? Yeah.
Good morning, sir. My name is Rashi.
You have to be louder than her. She was loud and clear. She'll get, if I had a chocolate, I would have thrown a chocolate at you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Rashi Sharma. So I have this very specific question, that when startups try to scale up and expand their structure, they often face this problem when they do lateral hires on their leadership roles. The people who were there since inception start feeling less important, and they are not very acceptable to this to these new roles. So what can these people do? I mean, what can a company do to make their old employees feel more important and to retain them?
Which is your specialization?
So marketing.
Talk to me after the session. Brilliant question. You know, this is one of the things I do. I change lives of people. Instead of being a marketer, you might actually be a transformation partner for me. It's a brilliant question. The issue of scale up or the issue of transformation, old tenured employees with new tenured employees, when you're hiring people from different backgrounds, how do you actually make them mesh together? I once had the opportunity of talking to two people of one of India's most marquee e-commerce companies, and this is exactly what I had told them. And this is about 5 years back. I said, you know, you can buy technology, you can change systems, processes, be very watchful of the culture you want to be. Because A, you're getting people, you're literally wanting to be the USA of a culture, immigrants, Silicon Valley hires, Indian company hires, Indian MNC companies hiring, right? All kinds of people are coming in. So it creates its own mishmash. So either you have to be clear, this is the culture that I want to at least directionally be, so that as people come in, there is at least a common baseline understanding and everyone agrees to do that, otherwise there is chaos. So that's the first part of a comment which I wanted to make. You have to be very clear of how you want to shape. You don't have to hardwire it, but you need to be clear what are the contours of that culture. Your other question, which is about old tenured employees, may not have to do with startups. It may also happen with, or let me give you the best example. See, when I joined one earlier company of mine, maybe I should not, because it's being taped, I'll not give you specific names, but the CEO of that company told me within months of my joining that these are 10 companies these are 10 people who helped the company get to this point. But I don't think these are the people who can take the company from here to there. So Prabir helped me in the best, easy way to get rid of them in a nice, honorable way, and you helped me get a different breed of leaders. Now, which is very practical, because a lot of people feel that, is that being dishonest? Is it not rewarding people for loyalty? And this is the classical old world trap. If you are someone who is very good at a 100-meter sprint, you don't get this guy to run a marathon, or vice versa, right? And therefore the understanding of talent is important, and he was very wise. And we got rid of these 10 people, and then we hired a set, and then they ran their set of the race, and then someone else, and so on and so forth. Now, for people who are old tenured, a lot of it is because they are partly emotionally wired in the past. They believe that that gives them a right to continue in their own political space in the future, or what got them here will get them going in the future, which never happens. My advice to a lot of my boards and CEOs has been, make the effort of first playing back to them that this is the new ask. Give them fair chance, coach them, help them. Some people are able to migrate. They are able to change their thinking. They are able to, it's difficult. Can I get you guys to do a little exercise? Can you raise your hands? This is for the cameraman, he's my friend. So right now you can take your best snap. Raise your hands nice and high, everyone. Get your hands together. As high and straight, don't keep it like this. This is a lazy one. You are in GIM. As high, straight. और ऊंचा आप रखिए, आप भी रखिए, एस्टर को बोलिएगा, right? Clasp it tight, tight, very tight. Everyone's feeling okay? Yeah? Now try and put your thumb the wrong way, not the way you typically hold, just the wrong thumb on top now. But hold it as high, as tight, not spread, together, yeah? How are you guys feeling? Any honest answers? Difficult, different, awkward? Some people have already started. Look at this, they have put their arms down. I have not told you. Put your arms down, please. Thank you. 20 seconds we are not able to even hold our hands different than what we were used to. We are talking about changing experiences of people who spent 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in a company. So you try and help them. If we hadn't done this exercise, we'll be a lot better by the end of the day. But there are some people who just are not able to make it, either psychologically, emotionally, or even technically, skill-wise, right? Because the skills are very difficult to master. Some people just don't have the learning agility. So my advice in these cases is, cut your losses. If you can, separate them as graciously as you can, because they will drag the future of the company down. So for me, it is about grace of execution, but resolve in and deliberation in the decision making. I personally believe no one can keep any company down, because you won't survive. So 10,000 people are going to lose their jobs because 5 people are not willing to change. So I would actually cut my losses. Make sense? So as a CEO, remember.
We can have one last question. Anybody?
All right. Thank you very much, guys. All the very best. Good luck to all of you. Can I step down? Can I go down?
With these wonderful words of wisdom still ringing in our ears, we would like to thank Mr. Prabir Jha for taking his time out and addressing us with his enlightening speech. We have definitely learned a great deal from you today. As a token of gratitude, I request Ashna Makkar, our Hriday JCC, to felicitate Mr. Prabir Jha. With this, we come to a close to this session. We would like to offer our thanks to a few people without whom Anveshan would not have been possible. Firstly, we would like to thank our director, Professor Rajit Parulekar, our PGP chair, Professor Raj Amonkar, the Dean of Healthcare Management, and Professor Arif Raza for their support towards Anveshan, and also our dear faculty, with a special mention to Professor Padmanabhan and Professor Venkatesh Naga for taking their time out to attend today's session. We would like to thank the management and staff, with a special mention to Mr. Steve, Mr. Hilario, and Ms. Celine for providing us with the support to organize the national level event. We would also like to thank Kanaka and EcoClean for their assistance that they shall be offering on the days of Anveshan. A big thank you to the Student Advisory Council for helping us run this event smoothly. A big shout out to PR Cell and Sprockets for ever so willingly agreeing to cover Anveshan. A special mention to Student Alumni Relations Cell, Brain Vista, Inception, and Health Club for their assistance, and to all the clubs and societies in GIM for their unending support. Finally, we would like to offer our thank you to our fellow GIM students for being supportive and participative in all our events. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Students are requested to please remain seated.